Hi friends, it's Isabel, and today we're going to be trying something a little bit different. We're doing a random color challenge. So basically, I just assigned a number to all of the colors in my White Nights palette. There's 36 of them. Just went down the rows, pretty simple, and then I used a random number generator on the internet to generate two different colors. I felt like two was a good amount to do for this limited palette challenge. I got this nice green color. I think it's just called green in the palette. I'm not sure what the pigment information is or anything, but yep, it's very, very green. Definitely not a color that I usually gravitate towards, even though I do tend to use a lot of greens, but I don't really use this one very much because, I don't know, I just like other ones in the palette better. But that's the point of this. And then I generated another number and I got Shazamorama, this brown color. So again, not one that I've really ever used. The reason that I wanted to do this challenge was because I feel like there's a lot of colors that I just don't really touch that often. If you look at my palette, you can definitely see that some of the colors are used a whole lot more than others. So it was cool that I got colors that I don't really use. At first I was a little hesitant, but then I started mixing them and I really liked this middle mixes with the sort of mossy foresty greens. And then I was looking around my room. I was getting inspired by these succulents that I have. My dad sent me this picture just randomly while I was painting and I thought, hey, that could work. So I just kind of painted the same shape with the circle. Although I didn't really end up using that, but I did get inspired by the idea of having, a pretty crisp white part and then these kind of blended muddy colors around it. That didn't quite translate in the final piece, but it was an idea that I was working with. So I just did these little tiny color thumbnail sketch thingies just to test out where I would want to put the colors and what sort of composition I wanted. And I'm not really trying to get a full idea of what I want the final thing to look like because this isn't going to be a big piece. It's just a little exercise in my sketchbook. So I didn't need to be too certain of what I was going to do going into it. I just needed to try some things out. Initially, I wanted to have like a bright white strip around the eyes, like a strip of light or something kind of inspired by that little crescent thing from the picture. But that didn't quite translate into the final piece because I don't know, I got carried away with making messy puddles of color, but that's okay. I'm still happy with how the final piece turned out, and yeah, I ended up going for more of a just overgrown florals kind of route, lots of foresty leaf shapes, and I think it worked out well. Kind of got a bit of a gladiator crown thing going. I really enjoyed working with a lot of wet on wet and just layering. The paper that I'm using is, I believe, Fabriano Artistico. I am using a sketchbook sketchbook. I'll have them linked in the description, and I believe that they use Fabriano Artistico paper in their sketchbooks. Could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain. This paper really lets you just have the paint sit on top for a while. It stays wet for quite a bit of time, and then when it dries, it's usually a lot lighter. So that works for some things. It's definitely an adjustment at first to learn how saturated you have to make your paint when you start out. But it was helpful for this piece because I didn't really have a set plan when I began, so I was able to layer over spots where I might have made a bit of a mistake and adjust them as I went, which really is the beauty of this kind of paper, especially because I think a lot of people see watercolor as this medium where every mark you make is permanent and you can't make any mistakes, but you really can. It just, as you layer, you have less room to make mistakes because, every layer makes things darker. So it is a balance, but you do have room to make mistakes, and it's a learning curve. And I think that really helped this piece. I was able to get a lot of nice layers as opposed to trying to paint around maybe the florals that were already there to try and make it look layered. like maybe you'd have to do with a different medium. I was able to just layer everything on top and it worked out great. So I decided to do this challenge because I was feeling pretty uninspired and I didn't know what I wanted to paint, but I just felt like I needed to be painting something, not because of any like obligation or anything. I just needed to be painting as a self-care thing, and I didn't know what to paint. I didn't really have any ideas that were speaking to me, and I needed just a quick little sketchbook session. I'm sure other people have done it before. I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty ubiquitous idea. But I just have this palette, this White Nights palette, that I really only use that palette. I have one other watercolor palette, but I don't really use it. And I feel like there's a lot of colors that I don't touch very much. I have a couple of colors in each, hue, like a couple reds, a couple blues, a couple yellows that I tend to gravitate towards. And you can definitely see that if you look at my palette. There's some colors that just kind of have a very noticeable dip in them. So yeah, I wanted to try that. And I ended up getting two colors that I don't think I've really used that often or even really at all. I might use them a little bit for mixing here and there, but they're definitely not ever the star colors. Yeah, it was fun to work with that really bright green and the raw umber color. And I was a little hesitant at first about the green especially because it's just so bright, but I really like the sort of mossy, earthy tones that it mixed up. And I definitely will be doing this challenge again. Maybe I'll get some colors that don't work quite as well together. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. I would definitely recommend this challenge to anyone who is feeling a little bit stuck or even just wants to fill up a sketchbook page. I know that is always a perk because I love having finished sketchbooks, and this one is slowly eking its way towards completion, but it's going to be a bit still before you get a sketchbook tour because I have two different sketchbooks that I'm using right now. Anyway, that's a different topic, but yeah, I really enjoyed this little challenge, and I'm really happy with the final piece. I hope you like it too. It's definitely messy, definitely not perfect, but I love how the colors all mix together on the page. And yeah, I just kind of made a mess and it was fun and that felt good. All right, that's enough talking from me. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.